here from Guitar World, and today we're going to be checking out a next level guitar processor that's portable and powerful and chock full of modern and classic tones. The NUX Trident. Let's check it out. The NUX Trident is the next step up from NUX's popular integrated guitar processor floorboard, the Cerberus. Whereas the Cerberus had a more simplified layout of drive and distortion, modulation, and time-based effects, the Trident is completely different. The Trident is a more advanced unit with comprehensive guitar modeling, as well as being able to exist as a full-fledged guitar rig for live use and the studio. Similar to the Cerberus, the Trident uses corresponding knobs and encoders for its amp and effects in order to make swift parameter changes a cinch, especially on the fly. The Trident's updated sonic engine is NUX's high-definition white box amp modeling algorithm, known as TSAC4K, which happens to be twice as powerful than their previous algorithm. The Trident uses two DSPs, one to handle its amp modeling and the other to handle its FX processing for its time-based delays, reverbs, and modulations, making its algorithm work far more efficiently for its processing. All of this translates to a more dynamic feel and playability and realism in both amp and cab sounds from the Trident. The Trident comes loaded with 27 realistic amp model captures, many of which are instantly recognized and renowned, like Fender, Marshall, Mesa, Vox, Friedman, and much more. And if that's not enough, you'll find deep dive tone tweaking in the form of being able to use high and low inputs for input patch cable jumping and toggle switch voicings, much like the actual amps to precisely sculpt your tones. The great thing is you can control everything from the face of the Trident, but honestly, you're going to want to create and tailor your sound through the Trident software editor because it's a far better visual representation once you use it, and it will expedite in getting your tone efficiently. You'll notice some presets were made by well-known influencers and musicians from around the world, and admittedly, most of them sound incredible. His Marshalls are really good too. What's also included is 35 effects, 27 guitar cabinet IRs at 1024 sample resolution, and 4 different microphones with 3 positions of mic placement. You'll also find custom patches and IR packs from Chop Tones if you're not using the included mics. On the face of the pedal with its numerous foot switches, NUX has really made the Trident a capable and efficient live floorboard where you have almost full control of your sound. You can see 2 foot switches to scroll through the preset banks, 3 switches for preset switching, and 5 more to switch on and off individual effects for reverb, delay, mod, effects, and boost. Also, by simply holding down the FX switch, you can activate the 30-second phrase looper, and holding down the boost will call up the tuner. There's also the NR, amp, cab, and EQ buttons to engage and disengage the related blocks in preset mode. Needless to say, the Trident has extensive I/O options, which you can see, like MIDI input-output, XLR outputs, send-return, USB-C, and expression pedal out, allowing you to create complex or simplified routing options. The Trident is brilliant because it may look intimidating, but with its slight learning curve, you'll figure out how easy this guitar processor is to use. Let me show you quickly. So up top here, you can see you have your delay and reverb effect, and what's wonderful, these encoders and knobs over here allow you just like a normal pedal to pretty much change the parameters on the fly. So you can start moving them around and be able to edit your sound. On this side, of course, you have three choices on the face: bucket brigade, which is analog, tape delay, digital delay, which you can select via the mini toggle. There's also the routing option, where you can run it in parallel, or the delay into the reverb, or the reverb into the delay, just by simply moving the toggle switch to where you want it. And then over here, you have your reverb section, where you have a choice of a spring, a plate, and a hall, which you can select via the mini toggle. And then, of course, your dedicated controls for that as well. So you can tweak these on the fly. And then, of course, turn them on and off by their corresponding foot switches. Moving over to the mod and effects section, you have the mod section with the chorus, trem, phase, and then, of course, its corresponding delays. Same idea, mini toggle. Effects, you have your compressor, filter, and pitch, and the same corresponding encoder knobs. Over here is where we have the amp modeling, and this is where you really can sculpt your tone using the LCD screen up on top here. So it's real simple. So for example, as I said, you can do everything from the pedal rather than the Trident software, but as I mentioned before, it's easier to do it from the Trident software. But watch, you can simply, on this preset, you can basically see the blockchain. You can move any of the blockchains wherever you want simply by selecting what you're working on. So right now I have the amp, the boost, the mod. So say I want to move the mod somewhere else, simply hold it down. You'll see it flash, and then boom, I can move it wherever I want in the signal chain, and then back. And of course, if I want to actually start tweaking and editing, I can simply push the encoder, and you can see on the LCD, now here's where I can tweak everything. So this is where it gets just a little tricky. So over here on the select home encoder allows me to pretty much scroll right now through all the amp models. So I can change that at any given point. Then moving over to this encoder on this side, you can see I have 3 pages to edit this particular model. So this first page, you can see I can adjust the inputs simply by pressing the bottom encoders by amp, and I can just start to move where I want what I want to do. You can see how I can, just by using the encoder on top, I can start moving things around. You can see by the bottom buttons, I can start to change things. Go to each different thing. Go to normal or bright inputs as well. Go back to page, and then you can see I can start going through the actual knobs. I can turn the knobs as well without having to go through this. But you can see where the knobs, I get a visual representation of where my knobs are, and then just by turning the corresponding knobs, I can just change the parameters and the tone. And then going back to home, and if I want to save what I just did, simply push it down, ready to go. And then over here, where you have your amp modeling section, this is where it gets just a little tricky, but it's pretty easy. So simply, you can see where I want to edit the patch. Simply hit this over here. You can see the signal chain. And right now, with the one raised, that's where I'm at. I'm using the amp, but I can just move the encoder, and you'll see each one get raised, what I want to edit within the signal chain. So let's just say, since we're working on an amp, I can push it down, and now here I am on the LCD screen of where I'm at with my patch. So right now, I'm using this particular Marshall sound, but by simply moving this encoder, the home encoder, I can scroll through the different, obviously, the different amp modelings. Moving to this encoder, you can see how many pages I have to work with to be able to sculpt the tone. And it's just your standard bar. You can see I have the inputs, normal and bright. Now, by moving over here on the bottom, I have to use these buttons in order to change what I want to do. And just by moving the encoder, you can see, can change the patch jumping on this. And then, of course, I can change, going to each encoder, you see the normal and bright. I can change that as well. So moving back to page, you can see the corresponding knobs just like on the amp. So the bass, level, middle treble. And I can just change it, and you see me just moving. By simply moving the knob, it changes the value. And then once you've got the sound you're looking for, you can go over here, hit this. Now you're back to it, and then you can save by simply holding it down. You can also load third-party IR files with the Trident's 32 additional slots using NUX's Trident Edit software that converts the format automatically on your PC or Mac. Once you download the Trident Editor from the Trident product page, you'll find it to be a helpful and easy-to-use interface for tweaking parameters, dragging block order, saving patches, loading patches, exporting patches, load IRs, setting up USB routing and control settings. And I can't forget that its USB audio capabilities allow you to record tracks, reamp, and even do live streaming. And NUX is consistent in firmware updates, so you can pretty much bank on new amp and cab sims and further functionality at some point. Just keep on checking NUX's online page and Facebook page and groups. Let's hear what sounds right now. I have it running parallel. This is what it sounds like delay into reverb. And then reverb into delay. So you really hear some of the nuance of how you route your delay and reverbs. Parallel, in this case, sounds really good. So you can like add EQ, turn it on and off. You can hear the difference. You can even shape the frequency. You can do the 7-band EQ or the power EQ. So there's a lot you can do here. I can change the cabinet as well here, also on the mic, the positioning. You can mess with the power amp and bias over here. And just like anything, it's so much easier to move the controls and sculpt your tone. And if you want to change the amp, you can see all the amps I can change over here. I can add a booster. Turn it on. You can hear the with the booster, you can have it in front of the amp, obviously, to get that little more juice out of it. But there are guys who like to actually boost the volume if they're using this as a live rig. So we would move this. We can move the actual booster over here as a boost. So for example, here's what it sounds like in front of the amp. And here's what it sounds boosted with a little more volume. Obviously, we'll have to sculpt that. I'm going to pull back the treble, a little bass, maybe move the volume down, a little less gain. But now it's got that boost. Of course, you can also change the booster as well. If you don't like this particular one, we can go to the Katana for a clean volume boost. And you can see if I bring it back to the front, it changes. So that's a real useful tip over here that you can do. And then the same thing with effects. Over here you have your noise reduction that you can mess around with. Especially if you use a high gain amp, it's real helpful. I can even add a wah. Or we can try pitch bender. Obviously, if you have used the expression control out, you have even more flexibility. And here's some other cool effects. Again, but you don't need that in the chain if you don't want it. And again, you can move any of these anywhere. you can just see how easy it is really to do things. Another thing to note, for example, you can see there's the mic over here. There's the mic where you can do mic placement, but there are presets where I mentioned the chop tone, so you don't see the mic, and that is the chop tones IR. Now, if I want to change that, you can do that over here. Some of the chop tone presets are really great sounding, especially for recording. I'll take you through a few of them just so you can hear how really authentic they sound. Here we go. This is chop tone B rhythm. Here we go. That's a nice sound. That's a good chunky. And then this one, it sounds really good. Larry Mitchell made some really great presets, and here's one that I really dig. It's a really processed and affected one, but let's have some fun with it. I'm going to pull the speed down a little bit. Okay, here we go. Also, it's great, of course, you find a really good sound, and as I said before, like this may be heavily processed, and maybe you want it that way, but the great thing about the Trident for live, you just get rid of anything you don't need by using the corresponding foot switches. Take out the delay. I am knocked out by the world-class sounds and intuitive user interface of the NUX Trident that makes tweaking its tones a breeze. What's great is NUX's proprietary white box amp modeling algorithm replicates the sound and playability of some of the most renowned amps, not to mention that some artist presets also sound fantastic. This floorboard is undoubtedly impressive, and with its advanced functionality and features, the NUX Trident is destined to become one of the best guitar modeling processors at its price point. Definitely check it out.